To anyone who's new, this channel is dedicated to helping people understand the difference between modernized, watered down Neo non-duality, often called Neo-Advaita, and traditional Advaita Vedanta, and specifically how to recover from Neo-Advaita. Long time no. Warms my heart to be here making this, and I hope everyone's journey is going well. So my last couple of videos, I've talked about acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a specific school of psychology, and how, for me, and I'm guessing for a lot of people, some of the principles of acceptance and commitment therapy are just like the missing pieces for how to recover from Neo-Advaita. So very simply, acceptance and commitment therapy is based on the idea that you accept your internal state, even states of pain and suffering, as the first step to, you could say, healing, working with, coming back to balance. And then the second step is C, committed action, taking an action that's in harmony with your values. In essence, you could say moving towards the life that you want. Specifically in harmony with what's most, in alignment with what's most important to you. So on the surface, this sounds very simplistic, and it is kind of simplistic. It's not easy, however, to accept fear or anger or discomfort and then to act on your values while that's still going on. But it has been profoundly life-changing, literally life-changing for me. You know, I've been doing this work on this channel and some other places now for, I think, going on 7 years. And there's a lot of things that have helped me, but in general, I don't like to recommend, like everybody needs to go do this, because each of our journeys is very different. And traditional Advaita Vedanta, traditional Vedic Hindu philosophy really honors that yes, there are universal truths, but the pathways there, hi to my live viewer, the pathways there, it's very individualized. And even Ramana talked about that different sadhana, spiritual practices, are necessary for different people. So, I don't like to go around being, everyone should do this, but, what I can say is that learning the skill sets, and there's more to, I gave the very simplistic overview of acceptance and commitment therapy. It's been one of the most transformative things I've found on my journey of recovery, because it just fills in some very fundamental missing pieces that without learning to cope with emotions, Neo-Advaita and a lot of spiritual practices just become a form of escapism. And as I've said many times, can very easily turn into an addiction, into addictive behavior of like dissociating from painful thoughts and feelings, which is fine every now and then, but it's not fine. It doesn't work on the spiritual path long term, and it doesn't work as a way of life. So, a major insight. Hi to my live viewers. Thanks for joining in. A major insight for me came, I was talking to a friend of mine who's very passionate about the process of recovery from Neo-Advaita. And she said, I was talking about how ACT teaches people to witness feelings. And I said, it's just so different from Neo-Advaita, which is obsessed with you are the witness. And that it sounds very similar to the act of witnessing, but it's like witnessing it is like just observing, like right now, like, okay, I'm noticing there's some tension in my throat. I feel some peace in my belly and in my head. My right hand feels a little tight. My left hand feels loose. Like that's the act of me witnessing things, right? Neo-Advaita, and to a certain extent, classical non-duality teaches us to turn our, like, that's my attention going towards things. That's witnessing. Neo-Advaita, and to a little extent classical non-duality, teaches us to, so that arrow of awareness, to turn it back to awareness, to witness the witnesser, to turn away from body, emotions, the world. And that's an interesting practice. Hello, hello. I don't have my glasses. I can't quite see your name, but thanks for saying hello. That's an interesting practice, but it's a very dangerous if you have extreme emotional turmoil. Like, again, it's fine every now and then, but as a way of life, it's flat out dangerous. And it's not how classical Advaita Vedanta teaches self-inquiry. I've talked about that many a times. And so this person I was talking to, so I was explaining to her, I'm like, God, it's so different. And she's like, wow, just the act of witnessing versus trying to be the witnesser. I forget her words. They were brilliant. It was something like, besides trying to force the ontological state of being the witnesser. And it's so true. They sound so similar, but the act of witnessing is very different than witnessing the witnesser. And it's profoundly therapeutic to the act of witnessing, especially with intense feelings. And for those who are familiar with Buddhism, that it's a key principle in Theravada Buddhism of just observing your mind and your thoughts. Not this thing of, let's see, I'll get to your comment in a moment. Thank you. In Theravada Buddhism, it's the emphasis, that's early Buddhism, the emphasis is not on some like, I am the self or I am Buddha nature. It's on just the action of witnessing. And it's profoundly therapeutic. Let's see if I can read this comment. We are too enlightened for the normal mind to understand, brother. I don't know what that means. Maybe I'm too enlightened to understand your comment. We are too enlightened for the normal mind to understand. Yeah, not exactly sure what you're trying to say, but you can try again. And so in acceptance and commitment therapy, they teach it's basically having a healthy relationship with your emotions. And one of the tools they offer is witnessing. And it's not like, and there's a little bit of, I am the witnesser, but there's more like, it would more be like, I am, like, I am angry and I am more than that. Or I am aware of, like, it doesn't get into the theology of like, I am the self, or I am the witness. It's more just focused on the action of witnessing and then taking positive action. So we will be there in, I wish I had my glasses on. Agartha. I don't know what Agartha is. Yeah, not tracking you, brother. Thanks for. Yeah, not fully understanding what you're trying to say. So there's all these tools in acceptance and commitment therapy for emotional regulation, but they all come down to, and as I explained it to my friend who, again, she's in the process of recovering from Neo-Advaita and very passionate about that. In Neo-Advaita teaches us to dissociate from feelings. Very harmful, very dangerous. And the flip side of that is like when we're in, like, when we're in a deep emotional state, like I'm trying to think of, like last night, or last night I just started to feel funky. Actually, yeah, last night I was just kind of feeling like uncomfortable and like something doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is. So, Neo-Advaita would just teach me to dissociate from that. But most of us humans, we become fully identified with, and we become those feelings to where it's like that those feelings are all that we see. And so the act of witnessing, it creates some space, so that like here I was in those feelings for a little bit, and then it's like I got some space from them. I didn't dissociate from them. I didn't ignore them. I didn't say, "Oh, they're bad or wrong." I just got some space through accepting. And one way to accept is witness. Another is just to say like, "Oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable and funky." "Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't like this. This is uncomfortable." And accepting it, and then what do I want to do, and I actually just talked it out with somebody, and then I felt better. And then I realized that like the feelings were there, and then I was kind of adding a story to them that was making them worse. So in acceptance and commitment therapy, that's called diffusing, because we have feelings and then we do things that amp them up. And so all of this is just like basic human wellness that Neo-Advaita completely skips, and it's utterly necessary. The great sages, Ramana, Adi Shankara, were adamant that there's preparations needed for self-inquiry, before self-inquiry. And as I've shared many times, I've realized that traditional Advaita is not my path, but these basic skills, but I still am very seriously on a spiritual path. It's just not traditional non-duality. But the prerequisites, the fundamental ideas, or the fundamental preparatory practices of traditional Advaita Vedanta can help with any path. So there's my little spiel for acceptance and commitment therapy. Oh, and the last piece is, a traditional Advaita teacher who I studied with said that bhakti, devotion, and dharma, doing your duty, being, in essence, being a good citizen, being a good family member, being a good, cat dad, taking care of your duties is non-negotiable for the non-dual path. So I would say those things are non-negotiable for pretty much any spiritual path. Not all spiritual paths have devotion, but this ability to be a balanced human being and participate in society and take care of your duties it is essential, because otherwise it's just escapism. And so, it really fits very, very beautifully with the prerequisites. I'm very much a big fan. I'm not following a traditional Advaita path, a traditional non-dual path, but I very much respect the preparatory training that Adi Shankara taught. And because it creates a balanced, mature human being. And then this, part of that is dharma. So dharma has a different meaning in traditional Advaita. Than we think of dharma meaning Buddhism, the Buddhist teachings, but it has a different meaning in Vedic thought. And interestingly enough, that traditional Advaita teacher I studied with, she also taught santosha, which means acceptance. So that was one of the first things that she taught us as one of the fundamental principles. So let's see here. Let's comment. Oh, cool. Someone said that this thing agatha goes hand in hand with what I'm teaching here. I don't know what agatha is, but I will take a peek. Thank you for that suggestion. Let's see. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I am very fired up about acceptance and commitment therapy, as it just addresses many, not all, but many of the key pieces, missing pieces in Neo-Advaita. And yeah, now this person has me curious about this thing called Agartha. Just many of the key pieces that were left out of Neo-Advaita that create a lot of imbalances and create a lot of problems. So thank you so very much for joining in. I wish everyone deep blessings on their recovery journey from fake non-duality. And one word of caution for those who want to check out acceptance commitment therapy. There are some, it's not a part of the theory, but there are some acceptance and commitment therapists who kind of are into a little bit into Neo-Advaita. So you kind of gotta watch for that. Neo-Advaita is creeping up everywhere. I've said that many times, and it's infiltrating many different modalities. And but in its pure form, ACT doesn't have any Neo-Advaita in it. It's just a set of practices and principles, no theology. Thank you so much for joining in. So much love.